yesterday, Klutch CEO Rich Paul, he sat down, he did an interview with NBA Radio at Summer League. He gave us some very interesting thoughts about where LeBron's career could go. Take a listen.
Could you envision something where he does actually play maybe 43, 44, 45? Can you see that happening? I know it's far down the road.
What does that put him at, 5 or 6 more years?
Yeah.
I think it's important to understand what really motivates him. I know it. Obviously, I've been around him for so long, I can tell you what his day probably looks like without even talking to him. And as long as his mind is there, as long as he's still excited about playing the game, in addition to the health, absolutely. Because I always tease him. I say, if your athleticism went away, you'd just be Karl Malone. It's fine. Like, you can pick and pop, shoot the jumper,
That's
make
true.
the right read. He can literally play for as long as he wants to.
All right, he can play for as long as he wants. There have been 5 players in NBA history who've played at least 21 seasons. Vince Carter has the record with 22, right?
That's
and then we have Kevin Garnett, Dirk Nowitzki, Robert Parrish, Kevin Willis, all played 21 years. So LeBron would join this list in his upcoming season. And this topic, it originally came up, right, because Venus Williams said that she wants to play until she is 50. And I said, you know what? Go ahead, girl. LeBron is 38, turns 39 coming up here. He says, he could play till he's 45. How many seasons do you see here, Rich?
Well, again, he can play as long as he wants. It is true, because if you listen to Rich Paul, he was not saying that he's going to be dominant for as long as he wants. He's saying that he can pick and pop, he can do some different things. So, look, when you have an IQ like that and you're 6'9", and you have that size, you can switch positions. He can be the point guard, he can be the power forward, all of these things. But he won't be dominant till he's 45. He'll be dominant till he's like 43.
Yeah, but we've already seen the evolution happen. When he came into the league, everyone knew he could go off the bounce, get to the rim, and then we saw him take more and more threes, and he shot a great percentage the last few years. And so he'll lean more on that, especially that, that dribble, look down, I know I'm going to step back type of thing. But I think it's cool because if you think about the greats of the generations throughout sports, you've got Tom Brady at that 45 mark. It's interesting that that idea is out there. I don't think he probably will, but he could if he wanted to. If one athlete, based on how he took care of his body, could do it, it's absolutely LeBron James.
Yeah. Was I sitting in the room a couple months ago when LeBron got eliminated from the playoffs and said, I might retire?
Yes,
we were sitting there, right?
He said he has things to evaluate, which you should do at the end of every season.
Especially
he
when you
always
get up there.
says, if my mind is right, my body will follow, okay? And so his mind was not right at the end of last year because he had played so much just to get into the playoffs. Like, that took so much out of LeBron to get the Lakers into the play-in tournament, then to get through Memphis, then to get through Golden State. He was mentally and physically exhausted. And so, we had a real discussion about this for a couple of days, and he's never publicly said, I'm not retiring. He's never come out and said that. I think we all assumed he was just spent, needed a week or two to recoup. But to me, you can play to 45 as long as your mind is in it. Because, Richard, Perk, how much LeBron James trains to be in condition and play at that level.
Right, but Rich Paul said, he's focused coming into this season. He's been commenting on social media about the new additions of his teammates. So as we all read the tea leaves, we sort of feel like not only is he coming back, he's coming back with a vengeance. But Perk, what do you see changing in his game as he ages, as he continues to work to extend his prolific career here?
Well, I think him continue to make sure that he not be a consistent knockdown three-point shooter and mastering the elbow. I could see LeBron becoming a stretch 4, on the floor. The only problem is that he might get picked on the other end. Guys might start putting him in pick and rolls, and now he has to slide those puppies. But when you think about Bron, I'm thinking about him, and I think about Bronny, and I think about Bryce. We heard him time and time again talk about, I want to play with my son. So he's obviously going to play with Bronny in the next, couple of years. Probably not on the same team, but be in the league at the same time.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Bryce is going to be available. And then all of a sudden, okay, do I want to have an opportunity to play in the league with both of my sons in the league? But here's the thing. LeBron actually could play until he's 50. Because if LeBron could buy into the Udonis Haslem role, where he's actually on the bench being a veteran leader, you don't think no team will want him and say, you know what, here, bro, we'll play you the vet minimum, which I believe is like $2.4, $2.5 million to be on our bench mentoring our young guys? He could still be in the league.
We have the same reaction. He won't want to do
He
that.
won't want to do that. Come on,
But
man.
I mean, I feel like at this point, Perk, you could just host the
I'm
show
just saying,
because that
I know
transition.
he wouldn't,
He
but-
could.
Seamless.
He could.
You're talking about, but you can
Flawless.
listen. If we're being honest, physically, could LeBron still contribute for another 5 to 7 years?
Yes.
I think physically he could, even with the decline. Let's say his 5 years from now, 6 years from now, he averaged 12 points a game.
Right.
Yes, he could do that, and he would just put all of these numbers even further away.
Ramona, when you're looking at motivating factors, how has LeBron been this offseason? What have you heard?
I mean, he's people close to LeBron told me he just needed some time after the season to rest. Like that Golden State series took so much out of him mentally and physically. And I think LeBron is to the point where they need to compete for champions to keep his mind in it. But once Bronny and once Bryce get to a place where they might be in the league, that's another round of motivation to where, if the Lakers if the Lakers have the pieces around him to compete, he'll be motivated. But if Bronny's in the league in 2 years, I mean, this is, I'm gonna keep saying this because it's a shocking thing to say. This could be his last year as a Laker. Like if Bronny gets to the league in one more year, LeBron's gonna go where Bronny is. He said that. I want to go where Bronny is. It may not be with the Lakers. So this is a whole other chapter that we're gonna have to consider. The Lakers
are
have to plan that way.
Lakers are drafting Bronny. If they could draft him right now and store him, they would.
Well, I think,
Don't they
nothing
owe their
is
pick to the
more
Pelicans?
motivating.
They'd steal that too.
Nothing's more motivating than winning, except maybe
That's
winning
right.
with your family. Like, I feel like
Yes,
that
amen
Chiney
to
knows
that.
a little something
I
about
like to win
that.
solo.
That surprises nobody out there. Speaking of motivation, hey, Perk, have you seen Anthony Davis's offseason training? Have you seen what it's been looking like? It's been pretty intense. What do you think? I know we've said that Anthony Davis needs to come back. He needs to have, you said, his best season, right, in order to complement
So you trolling.
LeBron?
You're trolling.
No.
You're trolling.
Look at his reach.
You're saying this is impressive? That's a troll. That's a troll, Malika.
That is disgusting.
How short is the guy he's fighting?
Oh my God.
Okay, is anyone doing this? You're
Why is
training right now,
Why is
Chiney.
he training against
No.
Kevin Hart?
Oh, wow.
Richard
Richard,
Jefferson.
could you hang in there?
Against Kevin Hart, I'd be fine.
The Lakers are like,
about
can you put a mask on? I don't
Yeah,
want to.
no,
I know, I just don't want anyone to
Look,
get hit.
you know you're not in danger. Like if they
It's
don't tell you,
cardio.
if they tell you not to put on a helmet.
Oh,
How do you feel like I can reach him?
like, you're going to be all right. You're going to be all right.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Perk.
Well, man, listen, I'm telling you, if you want to get in shape,
Yeah.
that is one of the most intense workouts that you could possibly do. Now,
How
I'm
do you
not
know?
looking
How
at
do
it
you
as
know?
Anthony
How do you
Davis
know?
Trying to, because I get in the boxing lab, and if you keep on, I'm gonna fly out there and show you what they ask me like. Keep on talking about how I know. That's how I know. All right, that's the first thing. But it is though. You see a lot of guys that do boxing. We done seen Dame Dollar in the ring doing boxing, not because they want to go do a celebrity boxing match, but if you talk about cardio at its finest, sometimes you want to get off the basketball court of the traditional suicides and things to that nature and get into the. I actually love that Anthony Davis is doing. I don't like his technique, but I actually love that he's actually working out.
And we're going to start with your Boston Celtics, Perk, because they have the highest win total set at 54.5. And for those not familiar, you pick if you think the team's going to go over or under the projected number of wins. So for the record, Boston has 57 wins last season, the second best in the NBA. So Kendrick, the odds makers, they are very high on Boston. But are you?
No, I'm not high enough to put them number one. Not over the Milwaukee Bucks. Listen, every season that comes about, at the start of the season, I'm banking on a healthy Giannis and his team for as the best record in the league. And you know why? Because he has proved it to me. The Milwaukee Bucks just brought back basically everybody. Their core group, and Giannis and Lopez and Middleton and Drew Holiday along with Bobby Portis. So when I think about the Bucks, they had the best record last season, and they're not going anywhere. Giannis Antetokounmpo is going to come back better. It's hard to say that because he had one of his best seasons of his career last season. But I'm going with the Milwaukee Bucks. And again, I haven't seen Kristaps Porzingis under pressure.
Here's the only thing
Yes,
that
you
makes
have.
me
You've seen him under
skeptical.
pressure. You just didn't like what you saw, Perk. There's a difference.
The only thing that makes me skeptical, Rich, of whether or not the Milwaukee Bucks would lead the league the regular season is because They were a 60-win team, in 2018. They fell short, and then Giannis said, all right, maybe I'm going to readjust how I approach the regular season. They readjusted, and then they won in 2021.
Yeah, but they finished with the second best record that year.
Yeah.
So, like,
they're always up there.
Readjusting is a couple of games. No, I think if you look at this is a pretty safe. All of these are safe bets. When you look at Denver Nuggets, they were the number 1 seed. They look like everyone's coming back for the most part, their core guys. And then you look at those teams up there, there's been a level of consistency from those teams. The Boston Celtics have been one of the most consistent teams for 5 years.
Yes, sir.
The Bucks have been one of the most consistent teams for 5 years.
Absolutely.
Who was the 4th team up there?
What we're talking about?
It was
the
4
Suns?
teams. It was the Suns.
Yeah.
That one is the bet. That one's the bet.
That's the value bet.
That's the 51 wins. Ooh, that's a tough one in the Western Conference. Look.
Finally, we get something valuable out of you, Richard.
I'm just saying 51 is a lot for a team that hasn't been put together. And I'm not saying if they win 50 games, which is a great season for them, and finish 3rd, that's the under.
I understand by the numbers, though. When you insert Porzingis, you think about his numbers 23 and 8 on 50% shooting from the field.
For the Wizards.
40%, correct.
For the Wizards.
But now you have more versatility in the front court where you have a dynamic duo on the perimeter. This is not a bad look for them. This is more offensive firepower. Now they have to put the pieces together. But I can see why, if you look at the body of work from all their potential star players, they look like they got better, but we'll have to just wait and see, because when you look at those top teams, a number of them have won championships lately. The Celtics have yet to get over that hump.
What about the Lakers? Early in the show, we talked about them a little bit. Their win total is 46.5 over under Chiney.
For LA, I'm actually going to go over, because I liked what they did at the trade deadline, and they carried that over to free agency. Because if you look at their 4 free agency acquisitions, their average age is 25.8. Thank you, producer Cesar, for giving the numbers for me. 26 years old. They got younger. They got more dynamic defensively. They got pieces that built names in the playoffs this past season. And so it looks like they're building step by step. They're no longer going for these big, huge swings. And I think that this means that they're probably more of a deep and more viable team now than they were a year and a half ago.
All I'm going to say is this. Lakers aren't going to get 46, mainly because Anthony Davis and LeBron James are going to miss some time. We know that. That's just a part of, NBA history at this point. So I think the under for them, I think they get 46.
So you're saying they're under during regular, but over in the playoffs?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, what about
46.
this?
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.